Okay, so how many of you are familiar with this ORM, object relational mapping? Have you done that before? Like, have you used this mapping tool or something before? Oh, okay, that's good. SQL Alchemy, you have worked in that. Anyone else about that object relational mapping other than Naseem? Okay, Nigel says no. All right. Okay, right. You are right. So sometimes you have used it, but you are not familiar with that. Okay, just quickly, let's talk about it. Can the person who said that I worked with SQL Alchemy, can you just give a one-liner definition for this ORM, which is there, but I want to have a very simplified definition for this ORM. Can you just give a one-liner for that? What specifically is ORM, object relational mapping? Okay, by the time you are maybe typing, let's start discussing that. It's a mapping tool, object relational mapping. In computer science, a programming technique for converting data between incompatible type systems using object-oriented programming languages. This creates, in effect, a virtual object database that can be used within the programming language. So let me tell you, you might have worked on that before as well, that we have got this ORM modules in every databases, every environment, which we use to simplify our work and just use functions rather than queries to do something. What does that mean? Let me just give you a quick example of that. This is our last week's file. I'm just writing a comment over here just to make you know. So if I write a comment, if you have to write a query, for example, to extract something from database, so you know that the query for that is the very specific, very generic queries, select statics from info table where ID equal to 5, whatever, right? So you need to write a query for that. And to write a query, it handles tracking models and creating them. You don't have to do anything SQL. Yes, that's very correct. So this is the SQL that I've written down. I've just written down one statement that would just go and bring up one data, one record on the basis of the ID that I provided to it. So you are right. Basically, it tracks some models. Models means it would be like pre-made functions that we will be using. For example, for today we'll be using find all type of something. So find all might replace our select status. Maybe if you just take a general example. So we'll be just talking about a function, a model that would just replace all this SQL code. And in every environment, we are given with some of the ORM tools. And what we need to do is, if you can see the last comment made by one of the students, that intelligence tracking models and creating them, you don't have to do anything SQL to take action in. So you don't need to directly interact with database. Rather, you are basically interacting with the models. So to speak, our models, we'll be talking about the models today. So, this models is specifically that same concept of model view controller. If you are familiar with MVC, model view controller. So we make our models, and again, by using simplified, the functions and simplified interfaces, we interact with the database. So again, to save ourselves from the complexities of maybe sometimes not directly handling or directly acting on the database, rather than having something in between that, like models, as we say. Okay, as I say model, I am very confident that you are very much familiar with this MVC or any modeling for any framework that you use. So basically, the same concept is here, that we have got the models, and then we do what? By using models, we will be just interacting with the database. No need to write SQL. No need to write into the query syntax. Of course, ORM would have its own syntax, but anyhow, that syntax is not it's different from our like complex query structures. So summary. Let me just quickly just open that again. So if you want to summarize that, you see here, implementation specific details of storage drivers are generally wrapped in an API in programming language in use. Exposing methods to interact with the storage medium is a way which is simpler, more and line and paradigms to certain like code. Now see here, Now, as I said that, for example, if you have this, for example, you are doing something, select ID, first name, last name, birth, age from persons, where ID is equal to 10, result is equal to context.person from SQL raw, that run that query and to just to store that somewhere, and then just accessing that one. In contrast, the following make use of an ORM job API. So ORM, Object Relational Mapping Job API, allowing writing of code which naturally makes use of the features of the language. Now, simple, what we do, person is equal to repository dot get person. So again, so just passing a 10 into it. So like, saving ourselves or not going into the deeper detail that how I'll be writing the queries and things like that. Right. So that is what the simplified like a modeling technique that has been provided, object relational mapping. And it does what, that it basically does what, it provides us the simplified environment for that. Right. So for why I've discussed that, because the topic for today is basically our like Postgres like SQL and or maybe data persistence, right? And we'll be talking about these modeling techniques. One of the very important model that we use for in our Express for handling the Postgres data, and that is Sqllize, and we'll talk about that. So data persistence. The topic for today is data persistence, the ability to persist and save. You remember that we have already worked on one of the application. Let me just bring that application over here. I hope if you have attended last week's class, let me just add it over here. If you have attended our last week's class, we have done this one. We were using forms and JSON first, and then we talked about handlebars. And by using handlebars, we have done something that we have started to display our data in a more acceptable format. By acceptable, I mean it's not beautiful by any mean, but in acceptable means it's a table that is showing all the data, and that data is being basically coming from where. You remember that we have talked about that we had a data in JSON, and we are just trying to bring up this JSON data and displaying that in a very acceptable or in a very formatted, formatted manner. So this was the example that we were doing. But you remember that we had another function, if I remember correctly. If you want to add something, add a new user, you can just add that. For example, you say ABC XYZ email is again just a quick reference, is a hero or not, is a hero, submit file. Okay, do you see that? I don't know for what reason it's not giving the name, but anyhow, so it has added that ABC and abc.com. And the same way, if I add one more, just something, and it's not displaying that one, but anyhow, no problems. Okay, submit file. So you see that it keeps on adding those records, and it should be displaying the names as well. Anyhow, so but the problem is, you remember, the problem is that this all has been added as a temporary measure. Like it's all temporary. And if I just go to my application again, looks like it would have removed the still it's showing. But again, if you just close this session and just restart this session again, and or maybe I need to just stop the server, but we'll see that. Right. Okay, just it's showing you. So now why it is doing, of course, that our session is going on, and this session is it's just keeping all those things. So if I just go over there quickly and try to do that. So I've terminated my job, and then I'm again running my job, and watch, and this is all we have done before as well. So that's why I'm just keeping it very fast. So now you see here that these two have gone away because the session was just maintaining that. So it's not persistent in nature. It's not persisting data, and it just adds and shows it to you. And again, of course, when the session goes out, that server goes out, it basically removes that, right? So that is something that we have talked about. So today we'll be talking about persistence. Data persistence, the ability to persist or save new, updated, deleted information, is a vital part of any web application. Of course, we never want to have a temporary data added to that. Rather, we always want to have a permanent data. So for example, this could be registering new users, deleting users, updating profile information, or payment data of users, viewing saved file. Just hold on a minute. All right. So we are talking about the persistence here. So again, if you need persistence, of course, you need to have what? The database or something that which can be used to permanently store our data into it. Right. So to truly create an application, you must be able to work with the persistent data. Of course, we need to have persistence. Fortunately, there are many different database systems that we can leverage to accomplish this notion of data persistence. These range from powerful relational database models, including Microsoft SQL Server, one of the very powerful, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, and many others, as well as NoSQL databases such as DynamoDB or DocumentDB, Azure DocumentDB or MongoDB. So we have got all these databases built together. So we can leverage all these one, and we can just work on relational databases either by using this. Again, as we said, that today we'll be talking about that ORM. And we can do what? We can use this NoSQL databases as well. So for this course, for the purpose of this 322, we'll be focusing on PostgreSQL and MongoDB. This week we'll look how can we work Postgres database in a Node.js environment. So today we'll be talking about that specifically, and we will see that how we can create database. So is there anyone who has already got some experience of PostgreSQL, who has done something? Maybe some people have said that they've worked with some different things. So have you people got this experience of Postgres before? Postgres or PostgreSQL, whatever you call it. Or maybe let's change the question. The question is now that what databases, maybe relational or non-relational, NoSQL, you have used in, like you have learned before this course, like in your previous courses. There would be some of the courses that you have studied databases in. So can anyone just give me that feedback? You have done Oracle, okay. Anyone else? Used Oracle, so you used Oracle. That's good. So you have done that. So it means that you are like, of course, mostly familiar with the, of course, the database concepts, likes of the starting from the very basics of relations, and then the integrity constraints and things like that. Okay, that's very good. So you have got this experience. That's very good. That's very nice. Good to know. Right. So PostgreSQL, you see that, what is that? Okay, Mongo. So someone said that Mongo also. PostgreSQL, also known as Postgres, is a powerful open source object relational database system. It has more than 15 years of active development and a proven architecture that has earned it a strong reputation for reliability, data integrity, and correctness. So basically, PostgreSQL has all these, it's considered as a powerful relational database system. It runs on all major operating systems, including Linux and things like that, Windows. It's fully ACID compliant. Can anyone quickly tell me that ACID compliant means what? A quick introduction of ACID. Anyone can just make it a big, what is the short form this ACID? Yes, anyone? ACID compliant, and they say that this Postgres is always an ACID compliant. So when we say ACID compliant, what does that mean? Does anyone remember these 4 letters? Let me just open it up. Okay, so it's atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. You would have studied that these are one of the features that should be there in a database. Why? Because they will make database very powerful, and not only powerful, but of course less prone to the duplication, the problems that usually occur during the transactions, likes of this isolation and durability, of course, for the transaction. So PostgreSQL is basically all ACID compliant, and fully ACID compliant, by the way, has full support of foreign keys, joins, views, triggers, and stored procedures in multiple languages. So as I'm saying that, I'm just understanding that you know about all these things. Stored procedures are what, triggers are what, views are what, joins are what. So just for a refresher, can anyone give me a definition of views? What are the views? If you have worked on that. Anyone? What are the views? If you can just a one-liner for a view, or maybe not one-liner, maybe 2 words. HTML. Okay. Anyone else? Please bear in mind that we are talking about databases in their down depth detail right now. We are not talking about the MVC part sometimes right now. We're just right now in very much our database part. So we are, truly talking about the database. Yeah, database view. You're right, database view. So views that we use in databases. That was the question. Table. Boom. Okay. I think you need to add something, a suffix or a prefix with it, because view technically, yeah. Temporary means virtual. Sometimes it's called virtual table as well. So it creates a virtual table. It's a view. And why do we create views in databases? Of course, that we want to show what is meant to be shown to someone, like to a particular user. So we create views and we create things like that. Um, here's another question. Here is another question, that do you think that this is good practice to use asterisk in our queries when we are writing queries, by the way? Right now, today we'll be talking about the ORM part of it. No, why not? Reason. I need reason from someone else. You have been actively answering, so I need answer reason from someone else. We 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 always avoid this asterisk from our query statements. Why? I need answers from someone else. Then someone has said no. Yep. Anyone? Why don't use asterisk in your queries? So someone said that we have experience with Postgres and Oracle, and so can you just let me know that why it's not a good practice. It's not a good thing to use asterisk in a query. Yep. Anyone? Okay, so you can just go ahead. Who said no? Because looks like no one else is interested in this. Okay, when we are joining table, it gives all column. That takes time. That might be one of the reason. That's a good reason. You're right. Might sometimes might takes more time, but again, there are certain more different reasons or more strong reasons for not using it. Yes, that is one that might be one of the reasons, because in the bigger tables, when you are using joining tables and bringing on all the columns, of course it will take a large amount of time. But other than that time, there are certain other issues as well that we just usually talk about. If anyone is coming up, okay, no one is coming up, so let me just go ahead and see that. So what happens is that one of the reason might be the one that you have just said. The other reasons for not using a query, asterisk in a query, is that we never want to show all the columns to every user. Again, the same concept or the same motivation for the view as well, it was there. So in select asterisk means you are virtually bringing out every column from there, because asterisk means all columns. So if you are bringing out all the columns, that columns might contain some, of course, some of the private information, likes of, for example, you are making an employee system and salary is there as one column, and if you just bring everything, the salary column is also coming up, something like that. And maybe passwords column, which is not encrypted, by the way, and maybe some other columns that you don't want to show. So select asterisk is never a good habit to use. Why? Because we don't want to show everything to everyone, number one. Number two, as you said, sometimes it might take a large amount of time. And number three, show only what is needed. That's the order of the day. Anyhow, so that was not directly the part of our discussion, but anyhow, that comes in. So triggers are there. The source procedures are there. Then it includes SQL 2008 data types, integer, numeric, Boolean, char. This is very interesting and important because we'll be using that one. And timestamp. It also supports storage of binary large objects, including pictures, sounds, or videos. It has native programming interfaces, C, C++, Java, and things like that. And there is exceptional documentation for that. So this is Postgres, the benefits or the features of Postgres, that it will be providing us all these features together, that it will have all these databases, data types in it. It has all ACID compliance, and it has an exceptional documentation. So, whenever going to select a technology, one of the consideration that you always give is that how actively community is supporting it, or how big the community of that particular system software is that is supporting that. Anyhow, this is a great choice for us for multiple reasons. It's open source, highly available, standards compliant, and most importantly, works nicely with Node.js. So the highest motivation might be that it works nicely with Node.js. So we usually will be talking about this Postgres. To get started, we need to add a Postgres DB to a new or existing Heroku application. Okay. So what I will do is that this is one way of doing that. And I would definitely talk about this. And I would today during the end part of class, I will just give you this part as well, that you can just add, go to your Heroku application that you would have, of course, one of them. But right now what I'm talking about is that I would just ask every one of you to just go and download this pgAdmin. If you do not have, if does someone has this pgAdmin already? pgAdmin download. Can you just go and download that? Does anyone have this already? If you can respond in chat window. If someone has already that pgAdmin, that would be very good. But if you don't have, I would like all of you to just go and download that. Okay, so try that. Okay. So what is that? That's a good question. First of all, let me show you what will be its interface. Where is that? It should be somewhere here or not here. Oh, I'll just close that. Anyhow, I will just open it up. So what is this pgAdmin? It's PostgreSQL. You are asking what is that? It's PostgreSQL. And what is that PostgreSQL? You remember when you work in MySQL, you have that PHP MyAdmin where you go and do. So do you see my screen? And this will be the interface of it. Once you download it, and after downloading, when you will just run that Postgres pgAdmin 4. You see here pgAdmin 4. So I would expect everyone to just download that. And again, you know that when you are downloading, you might be tempted to ask. You might be asked about the password. So you just set up a password of your. Oh, no. Right now we are doing this PostgreSQL. So if I think you missed out something. So in today's session, we'll be talking about Postgres. And in next week, like coming week, we'll be talking about MongoDB. So today we are talking about Postgres specifically. You got it? Take it. So you need to install something from this link, PostgreSQL download Windows, and this is the download installer. I'm downloading for the Windows. If you go back, you can find it for different environments as well. So you see that this installer is interesting. This installer includes the PostgreSQL server, pgAdmin. pgAdmin, which is a graphical tool for managing and developing your databases, and Stack Builder, a program manager that can be used to download, install additional Postgres tools and drivers. Stack Builder includes management integration. So we might not be using Stack Builder, but again, it will download these three things together: the PostgreSQL server, the pgAdmin, and the graphical tool, right? So please, if you can quickly just download that one, and it would be taking a good amount of time. Daniel, is it done? Now, if it is done, Daniel, then you don't need to do anything else. Just go to your pgAdmin 4 and try to create that server. Hopefully this will, of course, this time this will work. So those who are done, they can just quickly go over there and they can just, install, create the server and create that server, whatever is that server. And then we can create databases as well inside that. Okay. So it will take a good amount of time. Looks like it takes a bit of time. So no problems. But if you have reached to the right place, that's a good thing to know. Yes, any progress from anyone? Saroj, what is your progress? Like how much percentage of that has been installed? Because it has to have some progress inside that. Okay. Okay, so now as you see here that we are creating a table And after information, I'm seeing, for example, registration, something, whatever you want. So we are creating a table, and then after creating that, go to the columns. Someone was asking about the how to create table. Go to the columns, and here you can just do whatever you want. We give a serial number to that, and it's a primary key. And again, as I said that I'm just keeping it simple. F name, and this should be text, right? And just add one more, last name, and this should be text as well. So this is the text as well, right? So then you save this one. And of course, then you will have this registration table inside that one. Here, if you see the tables, you will have information table, you will have registration table. I have basically these two tables. So you got it? Who was asking for the creation of table and provide the script for it? I hope you get it. Okay, so now this is the table that has been created. And today, since we have just installed that, and I'm expecting everyone to be now with me, and I am using the same files that we used in last week. And in last week, we have created, as I said, there is a file which is extracting the characters. So what I want to do over here is that I want to create, let's see, I would like to just create a database over here, and I would like to work with that one. So you remember that we have talked about this one, and we have got this data service file which initializes the data, reads the data from the characters, and initializes that data. And we use that data to run these functions, get all characters, get character by ID, and things like that. So what we are doing today is effectively, we will try to convert this file from, of course, JSON or reading the JSON files. We want to convert it into our database. And yes, I am recording. It's started. Thank you. So we want to convert this file into a database driven file. And for that, as I said, you are already familiar with that. I have done what? I have created one table with the name of character. So I'll show you that I will be creating this table by using our our code. So don't worry about that. So now see here, what we want to do here is that we want to convert this project that we have created from reading the JSON data to the file data to the database that we have created, or we will be creating it right now. You got the point? Okay, if you talk about this week's notes, you will find the information about that. So what we have done effectively right now, we have downloaded the pgAdmin, the PostgreSQL that we can use to create server, that we can use to create the tables and things like that, the schemas and everything. And now you see that pgAdmin 4. This is the user interface of that one. So after that, what we need to do, this is very interesting. We need to use Sqllize. What is this Sqllize? Like all modules in Node.js, we'll have to use Node npm to acquire the module from the online package. So we need to install something called Sqllize. So you copy this one from here and go to your file. And again, this is a server running, and I'll stop that. Why? Because I want to just make changes now. So you have to do what? You have to install this one. Install Sqllize. Just do that. It will install the Sqllize, and this Sqllize will help us to talk to our database. And as I said, I have created one of the database for that, and I'll show you what is that database. Right? So install Sqllize. And other than that, after Sqllize, we have to install this dependency as well. And what it will do, I'll just let you know. First of all, let's do that and install that one. pgHstore. PG is again Postgres HStore. That would give us this facility of running the object-oriented code, or the, as I said, the ORM features, ORM-based features that we'll be able to run that. So now we have installed both of them, right? And what is the next step according to our notes? They say that now you need to what? You need to just define that, or you need to just require that. right? We need to require that. I will require that, and then I will just write my own code just for the purpose of my assignment. So first of all, I don't need these two things now. And where I'm doing all these things, please bear in mind, I can create a database or I can connect to a database by using the server.js, but I'm not doing that. Rather, what I'm doing is that I'm working still in my data service, right? The data service file. So first of all, what I need to do is const Sqllize. We are creating a variable Sqllize, and we are requiring this Sqllize file, which we have just installed, right? And after that, there are rest of the things given over there, but I'm just writing my own over here. Why? Because I want to, or maybe just copy that one over from there. So what you do is that just copy everything from here in our data file. So you see here, I have just like copied first line already. So now I have got this one. Now to set up the point for our database. So now let's see what database we want to connect to. Right now, you have just seen that we have created one database over there, and we were connecting that. But now let's talk about this. The database that I want to connect to is not this one. Rather, as I said, if I go to pgAdmin, so the database that I'm connecting to is this character, CHARATER, capital C, right? So I want to connect to this database, first of all. So what I'll do is I'll just name that, right? Character. And again, if that database does not exist, it would just go and exist, generate that. So user, I've just left one user for that. And what was that? That was Postgres. And the password that I have set up while installing was root. And whatever you have just set, I have set up this password of root. I hope everyone is getting that. Now, what we need to do is that we need to mention the server here. And what server we are using? Localhost. And that is the difference between this one and the nodes. In nodes, you will be creating a database on our Heroku server, and then we'll be using that. But anyhow, that's very easy, and you will know that as well, right? And then it says that port number should be what? The 5432 that we have just talked about. Dialect options are there. SSL reject unauthorized is equal to false. So basically, what it will be doing, it is working for our SSL right now. Now, see here, that Sqllize.authenticate will be just first of all authenticating it. Authenticating means again the credential that you have applied are either they are right or not. If the authentication is successful, the same promise-like syntax, then function, then run a function and say connection has been established successfully. Or otherwise cache the error and just let us know that thing has happened. Some error has happened. So now if you have just done that, we have done. So again, first of all, I am working on the same file that we have done in week 6. If you have not done that, of course, in last class, I provided you the week 5 file, and then we made the changes to it. So if you have done that, and now if you run it, let's see if I have if I have set up the database correctly, because I have the character database. Even if you don't have that character database, let me know. Okay, so there is something wrong. Server does not support. Okay, so server does not support SSL connection. I need to just make this dialect connection for the time being false. I don't want this one for the time being. Just do that, and I'll let you know that what is happening after that. Okay, and let me just remove this SSL because it's looking for the SSL one. Okay, so unable to start server, FS is not defined. Of course, FS, if I am using FS somewhere, of course, it will say that FS is not defined. And by the way, FS will be used here, of course. So let me just comment these all functions out so that we can check that one. The only thing I'm leaving is the okay, I'm just commenting it out for the time being. And I will just keep on uncommenting that and check that. So Control S. Okay, again crashed. There is something wrong again. Data.initialize. Okay, initialize function is not there, of course. Okay, so let me just complete that, and then I'll let you know, because it's asking for those things. So now if you see here that this initialize, you remember this initialize was doing what? It was initializing our data and it was providing us the characters for us, like, to work with those characters. Now what I'm doing is that I'm uncommenting it, and I don't want to initialize now a file. Rather, now I have to do something different. And for doing that, even before doing that, what we do is that we try to create a table over here by using this one. So there is one good way of defining or creating a table. So first of all, let's do one thing. So you do var char ID, or maybe var character. We are just making another table character. So this is one good way of defining a table. So we will use Sqllize with small. What is this Sqllize? If you see that this Sqllize is the variable that I've created, right? The database that I've created. So I'm using this Sqllize. Oh, where is that gone? Yes, Sqllize. And after Sqllize, what we'll do? Use define. Define is used to create what? The like a database table. So if that database table won't be existing, it will just add that. And if it will be existing, it will just, let me know what it will do. So how you will just define this one? You will just say, first of all, the name of the table. The name of the table I want to define is character ID. And there are certain things that I need to set up. So let me just do that. So define character, right? So first field I want to define is char ID, for example. And why I'm doing this one? Because you remember we have talked about that our database, our data was in JSON format. And now I am just, imitating that data over here. Char ID, first name, last name, email. I will be just trying to imitate that one. So to create that table, what we do is that char ID and square, like curly braces over here. And we need to give a type with capital S, Sqllize dot integer, right? Why not accepting? Why? Because Sqllize spelling is not correct. Sqllize dot integer, the first property of char ID. The second property is I want to set it as primary key, right? So I'll say true. And the third property is auto increment. I want it to auto increment. Auto increment is true. Right? So what I'm doing, please bear in mind, I'm trying to create a table where the first field will be char ID. And why I am creating this, I have told you that I'm imitating this database. I'm imitating this JSON data, and I want to create a database according to that, right? Which we have not created as yet, or I have that one, but you won't have that one. But let's see when you'll run that, hopefully it will just run that. So first name, Sqllize dot string, right? And let me just copy this one because I will be just using this. Control V, Control V, Control V. So first name, and then I'm doing last name. That last name will also be a string, right? And then we have that email. Let's take that email also as a string for the time being. And then last one is hero. Is hero, and is hero will be a Boolean, not string. Boolean, right? So now what we have that we are trying to create a table, and this should be created again when we'll be just synchronizing it. So now save this one, and let's talk about the initialize now. What initialize will do? So first of all, we know that now read file is not required. We'll be just removing this one, everything being removed. So initialize. Now initialize what we'll do. Now initialize's job is to go and initialize the database. Go and start my database, right? So to start our database, the syntax that we'll be using is the variable that I've created for the database, sync. Now, this sync will tell me that whether database has been properly connected or not. Like again, this will just go and initialize that. So then you know that we have got then, and we are just defining a function inside then. If that happens, like again, if it is successfully done, do what? Resolve, right? Or otherwise, Of course, if there is an error, you just go about the error. And let's call a callback function over here as well, right? And you say reject, and you can just give any yourself an error, unable to connect, right? So I hope so far everyone is with me and following me up. So what we have done, let me just repeat that. What we have done is that first of all, we have just set up a Sqllize object, and Sqllize is that type of ORM. Sqllize is basically the ORM, mind you. This is one ORM that will give us facility of connecting to the database. So I have just first of all acquired that one, required this Sqllize, and after requiring, what I've done is that I've created a variable. You can create a variable with any name. You can call it a DB or something, whatever. So Sqllize, new Sqllize character is my name of the database. Postgres is the name of the user. Root is the password of my. So please bear in mind that if you are using, you'll be using your own password. Host, and then I have dialect options. I've just closed that SSL for the time being. So it will be just accessing that. Sqllize.authenticate. So first of all, it will authenticate, and then if the success, the connection is successful, it will tell us that function, the connection has been established, or otherwise it will say that. And after that, what I've done that I've just tried to create a table. And how to create a table? By using this define. So character is that should be the name of the table, and Sqllize.define character. So I'm just defining the name of the table over here, of course, and giving it a variable that I will use to access these features of. And inside that, I've defined char ID first of all, and again I've imitated all my characters data from here. Char ID, first name, last name, email, and is0. So I've just defined all of them and use them over here, and given the data types over here. So when we'll just initialize it, of course, it will just go and sync that one and whether resolve or reject. Let me just save that and see if still there is some problem. If there is some problem now, still. Okay, some extra bracket is coming or something wrong is happening. Let me just check that. This is starting here and ending here. This is correct. This one is correct. If this is starting here and ending here, this char ID is here. And about this one, initialize. This first one. Okay, looks like it's not closed. So I'm just starting it over here. Export.initialize a function. All right. So I am missing one of the curly braces over here. Looks like so. Is that the thing that I'm missing? Let me just see, or missing something else as well. Now it says that it's expected comma. Can you find what is wrong? I'm just making some mistake somewhere, maybe. This promise has been closing over here. Can anyone else just look at it? And let me know what is going wrong over here. Let me just save that and see if it still says that error. And it says, oh, this is missing this one after argument list. This one closed and this one closed, and looks like Saroj is giving a very good response. Unable to establish. Here you are talking about Saroj in Sqllize, or you are talking about this one in initializer. Okay, initializer. So you say that unable to connect, and you say that first one will be yes. Looks like I'm just missing something. Let's copy yours one. I'm just using yours one. I'm just right now a bit lost. I don't know what's going on. Let me just save that. Okay, what you have closed? You have closed. Okay, catch error. Okay, I was not closing the catcher anyhow, but still it says something. Hmm. Oh, I think it was the problem. Thank you very much, Saroj. Thank you very much. So now you know what is happening is that if it is saying select 1+1 as a result, executing create table if not exist, it has created the table of characters because I have used the characters and I have just created. So now it has got. So now if you people run it, thank you very much, Saroj, for providing that. I'm just copying and pasting this complete code in our chat window. Maybe if you are, Naseem has helped us out. Thank you very much, Naseem. And now if you are having a problem, you can just copy it from here. So Naseem, do you see the same output as mine? And if you see the same output, if you go to your pgAdmin, hopefully if you are getting that same output as mine. So if you see here, so if you see that same output, create, select one, create table if not exist, it means that now your database will be created over there and your database will be populated with one of the table. So if you go to pgAdmin 4, you will see that there is a database named character, and there must be schema. Inside schema there must be tables. So characters is that table that I've created over here. Do you see that? So I will be just pausing recording now, because, or rather stopping